So, somebody say something. Let me see if I can at least hear you at all. No, nothing. Darn it. Had this working Wednesday. What changed? That's all in there. So that's not it. So it's creating a feedback loop and not working. That's really weird. Why did that change?
I sent the stuff now, dude, by the way.
Let's check pulses. Issues with pulse. We got our recording. Too many errors. There's feedback. There's output. It's not needed. That could be causing feedback, but I should be able to hear something. Crap. Sorry. What is causing this issue? I had it all working Wednesday. What changed?
MIT and
Testing,
previous version the LPGL3. So we might want to look into that a little bit deeper.
Testing.
So I do know LGPL is GPL compatible. I'm not sure how MIT interacts with GPL.
Testing. Anybody hear me?
Stricter or what?
MIT by nature, you can take it and basically make proprietary derivations of it, and you could probably do the opposite with GPL. So I don't think that would be a big
Okay.
deal.
So it would be easier to go MIT to GPL than the other way around.
Yes.
Okay. Do we know what the IO framework is like, or is that something that we would define within Kibbe?
So the end user platforms that you can output to, there's the OS X, yes to Linux, Windows, Android, iOS. It looked like web deployment's not ideal, but it's possible.
Okay.
Not recommended, really, as you guys were just discussing, which is the same with Pygame. Graphics, sound, video, yes. It is referenced in some places as possible for BCI, specifically among BCI resources.
Okay.
But I found that Pygame was actually referenced in a lot of different places and has been used to build some BCI games.
Okay.
I have some websites that I can send over to about that. Kibbe was mentioned as a possible tool to use for that. I don't know how extensively it's been done.
Yeah.
Testing, testing.
He's become malevolent.
Testing, testing.
Okay, Tim.
Testing, testing.
Yes, hello, Hawk.
Oh, you can hear me. Yay. All right. Okay. Thank goodness. I don't know if you saw my text messages there regarding questions about platform, but just to re-summarize. Consoles are nice to have, but not a priority. Accessibility is a part. It's the whole reason of this project is to make an accessible electronic role-playing game. And the ultimate in accessibility is brain-computer interface where you can just play it with your brain. So the point is we want to leave the control interfaces as open to as many different I/O devices as possible. Luke, I don't hear you at the moment.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
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 Okay, so it was muted in Jitsi the whole time. Nothing was actually wrong with my headset. I'm stupid.
Well, and we may have it set to mute on when you first come in, mute by default or something like that. So always watch for that. Yeah. You're not the only one, so don't feel bad. The whole point of this project is an accessible electronic role-playing game that can has a tool set to create educational and therapeutic. Anybody can create educational therapeutic games, just like I've done with Neverwinter Nights, except we want it to be multi-genre and built with accessibility built in. That's the whole point of the project. And BCI is the ultimate in accessibility. We don't want to be pigeonholed to only that. We want to be able to allow other controllers, adaptive devices, etc. But generally, if it's able to handle BCI, then it'll probably handle most other inputs. And BCI is our ultimate test and will push us the most in our development skills, trying to make that work, because that's the most bleeding edge when we get the equipment and the hardware to really start pushing that. But so what we're doing is we want to make sure we pick a development platform or framework that won't prevent us from being able to hook up BCI to it down the road, right? At the tail end of phase 2, we have to verify that at least the basic controls of BCI work. We want BCI working at the end of phase 2 to select menu options and get each result. That is part of phase 2's completion. Phase 3 is where we start adding the audio and the graphics and all of that. Does that help clarify?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any other questions anybody was confused about or unclear about? Bueller? No? Okay.
So we did have a question kind of earlier about if we're planning on moving into web, should we be using Python, or would we want to do a language that's like web-based, like Java?
Well, Python's very web-friendly, so I'm not sure what you mean.
She meant JavaScript.
I mean, the point that I would make is that you would have the same problem even with JavaScript, because you'd be running a server side and then also the client version of JavaScript, like Node.js, and then also client-side JavaScript anyway, which is what you'd be doing with Python for the most part, or even C++. So I don't...
Right, but I think the problem we're finding is I don't think there's many Python web games that exist. I mean, unless you guys have found one. All the times I've searched, the question is, can Python run, like within HTML? It always says, not really. No one's really made that kind of port.
Oh, okay.
Well,
that's interesting, because in the early days, in the late 90s, we were doing all kinds of stuff with that. They must have changed the focus.
Well, because there's a difference between, like, Django, Odoo runs Python, but it's all server-side. You can't run it in the browser. That's kind of a different thing. So, but in the end, it doesn't really, because you can have a Python framework like Django and then also have it deploy JavaScript or WebGL or whatever it is you're using to the client, like that. People do that all the time.
But this is an excellent This is an excellent point because, otherwise we are looking at, because the only, short of doing HTML5 Flash stuff, which, does that mean Java is the only option then?
I mean, how does Java change that? Is it because
Java
it's in
applets, Java web applets and such.
I thought applets were deprecated though.
Yeah. Well, what's the option now?
And as a side note, so is Flash.
Well,
Yeah, in
Flash
December.
is long since, yeah.
I mean, the only thing I can think of is JavaScript.
I mean, HTML5 can do actually quite a lot.
Yeah, that was what they were moving to, was HTML5.
Because they are trying to get Flash and everything like that just condensed into JavaScript. I know of people who work with, there's a company I think here in Spokane who does a lot of support for Java. I forget what it's called, like not NetBeans, but there's an open source Java plugin for browsers, and they have to do it for certain clients because they want their applications to be able to interact with other applications on the client in a very particular way. But that's kind of the only use case I've heard of where people still use Java applets and stuff like that.
So I guess they've gone to Java Web Start, where it loads the Java application from the browser instead of having to deal with applet compatibility issues between browsers. I guess that's what Oracle chose to do. So that if they download the Java application, what they do is they click a link on the web browser, it downloads the Java application with permission, and then just runs it from the client's desktop. But it's all through, it gets triggered through the web, even though it's really just a desktop application. Well, so this is what confuses me with Python. I haven't done any real game development with Python. We dabbled with it, game development, back in the late 90s. I've mostly just used it for systems and for websites and community sites and all that. My understanding too is Python was used back in the 90s for the Star Wars movies and such, that it had a robust graphics library, and that's how they did the CGI for the 90s Star Wars films. So with Pygame, so I guess as long as, because that's going to be a problem. Like, how do we? And here's a question: Python, can Python even run in Android or anything like that? It can't, can it? Or can it?
No.
Okay.
I don't know. I've never heard of that.
So that's definitely.
These frameworks have the ability, both Pygame and Kivy claim that you can export your products for Android.
Really?
Kivy says iOS as well.
Really?
Yeah, there's this called I tried to do that once with Android and export a Python project to Android, and I didn't have success. But I've heard of there being like
Yeah, because there's a whole project where you can basically have your Python code be converted to C++, and I would imagine they're probably doing something like that. Because I think Android is limited to like 3 main languages. One is like a version of Java,
Kotlin, and then C++ is the main 3 for Android, right?
yeah, and it was C++, their Java derivation.
So for Python to Android, there's Beware, Chakapy, Kivy, PyQt deploy, QPython, and Tmux, which is a whole distro. So Kivy's on that list as cross-platform OpenGL-based user interface toolkit. Python versions 273536. Open source has some demos. All via Pi. I can't read that. Let me move this over to the screen. All via PyJN. I can't read a PyJNLUS or some via plier. Java to Python integration, no. Where's Chuckapee? So Chuckapee is a plugin for Android Studio's Gradle-based build systems, not open source though. Beware is a collection of tools for building native user interfaces. It's user interfaces, Python version 3.4 plus. It's open source native Android interface. That's interesting. All other Android, yeah. What's that?
The Gradle build, that wouldn't require the client to install anything. That would be a development tool.
Yeah, well, and Chuckabee's not open source, so that takes it off the list. But Beware is a collection of tools for building native user interfaces. And user interfaces native Android.
I thought earlier we established that we're okay with at least considering proprietary stuff if it's only part of the development process and doesn't require.
Yes, as long as it doesn't interfere with it doesn't make it very expensive for us to get for all of you to have access to, right? If it's like $10 a license, no big deal. If it's $100 a license, that's a problem, right? So there's that. But then if it's non-restrictive on deployment, that we can deploy open source, then that certainly keeps it in the running as well. So yeah, you're right. That's important.
Hey, Hawk.
Yes.
One thing I've noticed, I'm looking at some of these frameworks, like an overview again.
Yeah.
You either get Android support or web dev. I don't think any of them do both.
Okay.
So like Qt, for example, does Android and iOS, but it doesn't do web at all. Whereas GTK Plus does web, but it doesn't do any mobile.
Okay.
So it's like we had to flip a coin, basically. It sounds like.
I mean, going back to Godot, didn't Godot support everything?
That was the point. Godot supported everything. We may just be coming full circle with why we settled on Godot. It's overkill in its size, right? It's massive for our initial steps as far as our initial development, but it might be the only way to keep from having to redo for each platform. That might be why. Please, everybody, speak up.
What all does Godot support again?
Pretty much everything.
I'm trying to find a list.
Yeah. Valerie, do you want to pull up our original scoping of that because we had a whole spreadsheet and section where we evaluated all the different things that were out there last year and why we settled on Godot. We had a pretty specific. I'd gone through quite a bit of research back then.
This is maybe a little anecdotal, but several reviews and game development postings were talking about using these Python frameworks, and several of them said use Godot. So I mean,
that's
just
important.
anecdotally.
No, that's important. And all of that needs to be data points taken into account. Valerie, are you able to find those docs?
Yep, I got them.
Okay, you're going to share those out?
Yep. Okay, so this is the chart that we made. So for end user platforms, all the ones that we had defined as needing, it meets so Mac, Linux, Windows, Android, iOS, and web. It also has reality support. Supports multiple languages.
VRAR augmented, right?
Yes.
Yeah, because that was nice to have on our list as well down the road.
Yeah, we've been discussing what languages it supports for a while, so I feel like we don't really need to review that, as well as the IDEs, MIT licensing. It doesn't have accessibility support, so it'd be something we need to add. It does have localization support. All the graphics we talked about has community support. Let's see what we'd actually written down about it. Can create our own custom tools for use. Can animate within the engine. Built-in analytic tools, which is nice. Can export to iOS, Android desktop platforms, Windows, macOS, Linux, UWP, BSD. IQ export to the web using HTML5 and WebAssembly, works with Git. So that was everything that we had wanted in terms of end user platforms plus some?
Regarding the accessibility support, I was just looking. I think that's not that it won't use accessibility libraries, but there's no accessibility support to do development in Godot. So I'm reading a couple of cases where people are blind. They wanted to develop with Godot, but it doesn't support any screen readers, so they couldn't do any development with it. I don't think it precludes releasing software with libraries that support accessibility. We'll want to double check that, but I think that's what we meant by no accessibility support, in that if you are blind or need accessibility to use Godot to do development, it doesn't have that. But I don't think that impacts our ability to release a game that has accessibility. I could be wrong, but that's my take on what that means.
Well, how does it interact with the BCI though? Because are we just going to extract numbers from the BCI and use those as inputs?
Yep, that's pretty much how it works. You figure out, you set the parameters. Were you here for last week's meeting?
I was, yeah.
Okay, good. So remember when I showed you those different brainwave parameters?
Yeah.
And remember, like the proprietary Muse and such, all they're doing is giving you a score of 0 to 100, basically percentage, of signal strength for each frequency. And that's basically what you're looking for. We want more flexibility than that. That's why we don't want to go necessarily with that. Plus, they're making it more proprietary device than we're comfortable with. But that's basically what we're looking for. Is we say, okay, brainwave signals in this range cause this trigger, and brainwave signals of this frequency in this range cause this trigger. That's basic. I mean, we're being very simple here, but that's basically how it works. You're looking for, so the key tricky thing with EEG and BCI is, and it can actually be very fatiguing, you have to, and this is why neurofeedback works so well. You have to think the right way for it to work. I was actually, sorry I didn't get set up, maybe I'll hurry and do it. I was going to demonstrate to you guys some of the BCI EEG physical games and how they work, like the Mind Flex. But I'm afraid I'm running behind because with my wife moving in, oh, did I lose you guys?
I'm here.
No,
Okay.
still here.
I'm still listening.
Okay.
What I missed?
Heard a weird noise. That noise. What was that? That. Who's doing that? You hear? Don't do that. That's making me think it's acting like Windows again. No.
Sounds like a cell phone, like an old, like 2004 one.
Yeah, because I hear it through your microphone, but I don't hear it on my computer.
It's making me very
Windows
nervous.
is coming. Windows is coming to haunt you, Hawk.
No. It's infected.
Can I-
legs. Go ahead.
Can I ask a BCI question after watching those videos? The inputs, in order to use it to select from a list of options, you're going to have to, I mean, is this right or wrong? It looked like the examples I saw, they did this. It had to iterate through all of the options, and they pushed a signal when they were on the one they wanted to use. So you're basically going to get one input out of the BCI. Is that correct? I know you were saying a percentage strength.
Right. Yeah. So we're talking about resolution versus it gets. This is where we start to get complicated, and it's a little early yet to do that. But if you have like my primitive EEG with only 5 inputs, that gives me a resolution of 5, and then potentially I can channel different frequencies. The more of the signals that are dedicated to the same frequency, the better the quality and reliability of the signal. The more you can count on it, etc. When you have fewer dedicated to that frequency, then your resolution is less. And I have to do a lot of refresh on this, so I've got to continue refreshing. You know, I did a lot of this research from 2004 to 2012, and then it kind of sat by the wayside. Now I'm ramping back up. And when I get this equipment, that's when I'm going to be really ramping up the most. But my understanding is it's easiest. They were trying to do it with the consumer grade headset. And so because of the nature of the limited channels and keeping the price down, there's limited resolution and limited number of frequencies that you can pick. And really, we're not really interested in delta and I think theta waves because those are sleep waves. We don't really want them sleeping to play the game. So we were more interested in the others. And so it's a matter of picking which frequencies, what the minimum maximum range is that you want it to be. So if you set a wider range that anything is in here, it's easier for them to play, but you have less granular control. So you could, in theory, say, you know, I'm just making numbers up now. 0.3 to 0.4 microvolts does one action. 0.7 to 0.8 microvolts does another action, and they're two different actions or something for one brainwave pattern. But it's really not the. Okay, let's see. Can you do multiple inputs in BCI? Yes, you can do. That's the challenge. It's easiest to do it with a single input, like you saw with the Mario, where they just trigger the jump signal. That's the easiest. We want to get beyond that. It is possible. So, for example, I rewired Neverwinter Nights with my 5-port EEG. I was able to move around in Neverwinter Nights. I can move forward, back, and I could turn left and right. And that was pretty much it, because I only had 5 inputs. And it was flaky and it wasn't the greatest, but I was able to override basically the WSAD keys by different EEG inputs. Does that make sense? So that gave me 4 different signals to work with. We're going to be working with headsets that have 8 and 16 inputs. Does that help clarify a little bit? I don't have the low-level stuff yet because I haven't done the low-level stuff in years. We're all going to be learning that together when we get to that. The key thing is, remember, we're going to develop the tool set first. We just want to make sure that we don't have to know everything about BCI yet. That's about 6 months away. I'm going to be ramping up on the BCI. Once I get the equipment, I'm going to be working on the BCI side while you guys work on the tool set and everything. And then as we get close, as long as we make the right choices now, then we can plug in the libraries that make the BCI work. Right? We don't paint ourselves into a corner to go, oh crap, this platform doesn't support BCI. We have to start over. That's what we want to avoid right now. We don't need to know everything about how BCI works at this phase. The key thing is we need to know, will it support BCI inputs? That's the key thing we have to make sure whatever we pick does. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Does that basically answer your question?
Yes, that answers mine.
Okay. Anybody else? No, okay. And I apologize. My wife is moving in on the 7th, and so we're basically moving 2 houses between her house and my house, trying to make it all ready. And so I'm just completely swamped until probably the 13th, really. But I did want to quickly show you guys. Can you, I don't know if you can see that now, I'm not that far. I might switch this to the side camera. Be easier to see. I don't know if this has working batteries right now or anything, so I might have to wait until next week to demo it. But while you guys are working through some of these other choices and I'm listening, I can see if I can get this working to kind of demonstrate some of the basics of BCI. So are we basically full circle back to Godot at the MC++ at this point? Is that what we've determined? So it's sounding like to me, but I could be mistaken.
Well, if we can't use Python on web, then essentially, unless we want to try to find an engine that runs JavaScript.
Which I'm not a fan of.
I mean, Unity does JavaScript, but even then it's like super haphazard. It's JavaScript support, and we can't even use Unity because it's proprietary.
So go ahead.
I was just going to say, so essentially, yeah, we're back to Godot.
Which is, in a way, kind of reassuring, right? After we did all that research then, and then we kind of forgot, and here we are full circle. If we're, from a fresh perspective a year later, still pretty much settling on, yes, this is the right tool for the job, that's kind of reassuring, don't you think?
Can I ask why you're not a fan of JavaScript?
Why I'm not a fan of JavaScript?
Yeah.
Really, it's kind of why I'm not a fan of PHP. It's come from a very, I'm going to end up using kind of script kiddie hacker culture. It's very poorly designed, and not very good OO. It's not a good enterprise level language. You remember I worked in enterprise a lot of years. I've had to maintain code bases that are just huge in size, and JavaScript, just like PHP, just is a very, when it gets very large, like on a low level, it's a great utility language, but people have been trying to do everything with it, and it wasn't designed that way, and the redesigns have not made it. It's a messy language, basically. It's just, I find it very, very messy. Not that I'm a big fan of C and C++ either. It has its decades of legacy. That was why I was a fan of Smalltalk and Java and others, that they cleaned up a lot of that crap until Oracle got a hold of it. Now they've destroyed Java. I've been involved with development since 1979, and I have my curmudgeonly attitudes about certain programming languages. PHP and JavaScript, you can get things done quickly. They tend to be huge security issues. They're really difficult to manage when you get a large code base. They're fine for small stuff, but and they work on a large code base.
So
yeah, go ahead.
Are you familiar with TypeScript?
Yes.
So does that not fix a lot of the? I mean, we could honestly argue about JavaScript bad.
Yeah,
and
well,
good,
I mean, there's
but
been lots
the
of efforts.
only reason I'm saying that is because I'm finding libraries that are both web and
Cross-platform and JavaScript.
and yeah.
Okay. I won't. If everybody ends up preferring to do that, I wouldn't veto it. If we found something that what I care about is the right tool for the job. So if it turns out, if you found a framework or tool set that JavaScript was the best language to do everything we want to do with, I'll set aside my security, because I'm very anal about security stuff. I've had to let that go in recent years just to get things done, but it makes me cringe all the time. Nicholas knows, from like, oh, I would much rather have better security here. I hate having to compromise this. Because remember, I certified in information security through the SANS Institute, and so any languages that are inherently flawed in their security approach, I just cringe at. And that's, there aren't very many languages that are going to make me happy in that respect, but some are worse than others. And I consider both PHP and JavaScript, because they have kind of the same culture, and I consider them both really sloppy in their development. And the way that it's taught, it tends to be very sloppy and unstructured and undisciplined. That's just coming back to you. But I would not veto it at all. If everybody looked at it like, hey, Hawk, this actually is the right tool for the job, I'd say, great. If it's the right tool for the job, I mean, this is an open source game. It's not, it's not our core infrastructure that we have to, at this point, worry about, hackers hacking their way into our, user database and all of that. Well, we'll have to keep that open if that happens down the road, but I can let that go if it's the right tool for the job. So if you can show me that there's these JavaScript tool set that would be far better than Godot or whatever else we're looking at, I'm all for it. But I would need to see some data on that.
Yeah, I'll do some research. We'll bring it up next meeting then.
Please. Yeah, because we can always tentatively make a decision this week and say tentative pending something else better while we work on, because there's a lot of other scoping we can do that isn't platform dependent, right? That we still need to do. For example, we haven't even started on, okay, what is the tool set going to include for, we need to break the tool set development up into different subphases. The minimum tool set, minimum viable product, and then what we'll add on and still part of 1.0, but we want to get just like the minimum functionality of a tool set, what we want the UI to look at. We've got a lot of other decisions to make that could be shaped by, to some degree, which platform we're choosing to develop with, but ultimately we should be able to make those other higher level decisions even when we haven't quite nailed down whether it's Godot or JavaScript or Python, right? So it sounds like we do need all of us to keep digging in a little bit more. I won't be able to till after the 13th. I wanted to research these frameworks, and I just don't have time until after the 13th. So I think maybe what we can do, and now who was it who suggested the JavaScript?
Me, Tim.
Tim, okay. Remember, I can't tell necessarily who's talking all the time. So Tim, so please, if you have that, share it in the chat room, the Odoo chat room, and let's get a discussion going. Because if you think that's a better platform, certainly JavaScript has a lot of power and a lot of flexibility, and that was one of my favorite things about WebOS. I don't know if any of you remember Palm when they went to WebOS before Palm went under. I loved that was the entire operating system was basically all JavaScript, one language. It brought in a lot more developers, and I really loved the WebOS implementation on Palm. That was a favorite device of mine at the time. It was very extensible, flexible, powerful. They had to do some tweaks to it to try to make the security better because inherently it had, the language has its security issues. I will say though, I'm adamant that we will not do anything in PHP. That one I will veto.
And speaking to your large code bases, I just like the way JavaScript condenses it. I've been working with JavaScript a lot over the past month, and you can really dial in what a file has to maybe 50 lines of code, and just reuse that code in other places. So it's like
that's object-oriented design. That's what you want to do in your development. JavaScript has had to kludge that to make it support OO over the years. It was not. It's a real misnomer because people confuse it with Java, and all it was Microsoft had ActiveScript and then VB script and all that. And anyway, it was a weird marketing thing, and it did not comply at all with the Java standards. Later, as JavaScript actually became popular, they started trying to improve a lot of those standards, but it's always been they've always been trying to go back and fix it. And they've never fixed it fundamentally. But again, it's not one I'll veto. If we look at it and go, you know what, check, this is the best tool for the job. I'll let my security concerns go. I'll let my concerns about a huge code base go. If it really looks like the best tool set for the job. But we need data. I don't have the data on that. We need to know, okay, what kind of framework or tool set we're talking about here. Right now we're talking about Godot doing C++ and or GD script as is, and I'm not really excited about learning yet another scripting language. So if we just stuck to JavaScript and everything was in JavaScript, that certainly makes it easier for all of us, and JavaScript's certainly an easy language, compared to C++ and the C world, the memory management stuff there. Let's do the research. So I think at this point, we're welcome to discuss more on this if you want, but it sounds like we need to do more research. It sounds like we might be coming full circle. Tim's got a suggestion here for JavaScript, so let's add that to the pool of consideration. Let's see what kind of frameworks and tool sets might be available that meet all the checkpoints that we've talked about again today, and see, let's really try to nail down so we're all feeling comfortable and confident that we've made the right decision for programming language. Does that sound good? Does anybody want to discuss it further, or want to wait till next week to do that?
I had one point to bring up. I was looking into Godot's implementation of C++. It is pretty easy to do. There are tutorials. As for its GD script, it's basically just a dialect of Python. There's some differences, but it's close enough that if you can code Python, you can code in it. So I don't think it's a concern to learn that language.
Okay. I've learned so many languages over the decades. They're all just programming languages. They all become bits. So ultimately, it doesn't matter. It's just like any other language. It's like, all right, I got to practice this one now and learn all its, the little trick library. The key thing is learning all the libraries that save you all that work, right? It's not the syntax and all that. That's all a piece of cake. But then you got to spend forever finding all the libraries that save you all that work, right? And that's how you become a really good developer. Is you either create your own or find the libraries that save all those repetitive tasks that you keep having to do on projects. That's what developers develop over time, is either their own libraries or public libraries, and they just know which library to use. And so you're able to whip up your code 10 times faster than your junior developers because you know which libraries to use. And no matter what language you go into, if it's a robust language, it takes a long time to find those libraries that really do the job that you want to do each time. So that's the part where I kind of go, oh, I got to figure out what libraries all over again. But hey, we'll do what we got to do that works best. So any other points anybody wants to bring up before we kind of shift gears onto other parts of the scope? So everybody join Tim in checking the JavaScript option, see what you can find, see what the pros and cons are, so we can discuss that next week. Feel free to discuss it in the Odoo chat room between now and then. If everybody go ahead and dig a little deeper on the Python and Godot side. One thing we need to verify is my assumption that Godot, while it doesn't support accessibility to do the development, for somebody who's a blind developer, that it won't cause any problems with us adding accessibility libraries and features to the game. It's just that you can't do the development through accessibility tools. I get the challenge of that. We're not even trying to do that with our tool set either at this stage. We're not building accessibility into the tool set at this stage. I'm afraid we won't get the project done if we take the time right now just to figure that out. I think that's over our heads right now. I'd love to go back in the future and make that so, but that's not the goal of this project at this stage. So definitely let's look into the JavaScript option. Let's double check the Python, make sure we're right about our suppositions about the web and mobile and all that being basically ruled out, and double check on the Godot features just to make sure we're going down the right path, and we'll discuss that further next week. Sound good?
Yep.
Okay, so meanwhile, Valerie, do we have more on the checklist, or do you need me to add to the checklist next what we're doing next for further scoping?
We actually, this meeting, the next thing we had planned to do was to test out the module or finish doing the playthrough of the Neverwinter Nights, but also it's halfway through the meeting, which means we need to take a break.
Okay. No, yeah, we were going to actually play the game. That's right. All right.
Okay.
Let's go ahead and take the break, and then when we come back, we'll spin up the server. What I'd like you to put on the to-do list, though, for scoping is we need to start scoping out what the tool set specs are. We're going to have multiple sub-phases of the tool set rollout for 1.0. So we're going to have the minimum viable product that just lets us create like the most basic menu, and then we're going to add to, from there. We want to do the incremental reward thing, that we work on a piece on a module and we get to see some results, and we work on another piece and see some results, so it keeps everybody engaged. Because if we do all this coding without being able to see anything, I'm worried with volunteers and stuff that we might lose a few with interest. So we want to keep them engaged with that stimulus. So I think that's the next thing to scope, even though, and by next week we'll try to firm up the programming language and tool set we're using. But then let's start working on scoping out, well, what do we want our tool set to look like? What did we like about Aurora and we didn't like about Aurora? We want to make it the minimum possible, and go from there, and we'll figure that out. And part of that will also be, just the UI, just sketching out what kind of UI do we want. So you guys will want to kind of have the back of your head thinking about what you want to do as far as, because it's a blank canvas. We get to create it from scratch, and if we end up not liking the UI later, that's our fault. So start thinking about that. So let's go ahead and take the break, and then we'll go ahead and do the Neverwinter Nights playthrough.
Okay, so 5-minute break, we'll come back at, I guess we'll do 11:09. Wait, so you're back from break and Hawkeye checked the server seems to still be running
Oh, really?
on Neverwinter? Because I think we threw it up after we made sure that we had the right file and then never took it down.
Okay, cool. So does that mean I need to reset it because people have been playing with it, or?
I don't think we have,
Okay.
because we never tested it since last time, so we should be,
Cool.
and it's not perpetual anyway.
Right. Okay, cool.
I'm just, sorry, does someone want to share screen so that we can have the stream seeing what we're doing?
Great.
Okay, so I'm seeing that we have 2 people besides me in the server. Do we wanna, we need to all make sure we're getting in there right
Yeah,
now
we want,
so that
we
we
want
can
everybody.
start.
Yeah, we want everybody.
Yeah.
So I am currently in the server.
Me too.
What is the server under right now?
The name is NWN.RPGR, right?
.org, yeah.
Yep.
Remember, you sort the servers alphabetically and scroll down and it'll be in the N range in red. And then the newer default volunteer password.
And Hawk, you're in 2, right?
Yep, I'm Wrathful Berserker.
Okay, so it seems like we got one person we still needed. Luke maybe left, so we shouldn't
Oh.
wait on him, but there will be,
Now,
there should be 5
where's the
players
rest
in
of
this.
where's the rest of our development team? We were up around 10 a couple weeks ago.
We had 7, so it was,
Plus us.
we're only missing
2?
2, yeah.
Okay. Where are they?
I don't know, I haven't actually heard from Zach in a bit, so,
Might want to, after the meeting, follow up with those who are missing and say, hey, we're doing the play test and missed you, and we're getting ready for the next phase. What's your plans? Hope to see it. And you know about the new time and all of that. We might have missed it. Okay, so we're not gonna wait for anybody?
no, we got everyone in.
Okay.
So
Why don't you
we're
go
good.
ahead and walk through and kind of do a presentation of the game as you do it and show me what we got.
Okay, I will appear then. So this is just the tutorial area on the ship. I believe you can talk to everyone in here except for maybe Alonzo because he has nothing to teach you. We didn't find any bugs in this area, so we've been kind of skipping over it because the code never changed.
So I'm going through Sebastian here, and
Dog is okay. I found him.
Okay.
He got out of the neighborhood, so I had to go find him.
Well, you found him pretty fast.
Yeah, he's kind of a fat dog, so he only kind of walks a bit. My dad was calling me like, he's out in the neighborhood. I'm like, what do you mean? And then in reality, he went 2 blocks, but he's fine.
so they all teach the same concepts.
They should all be teaching different concepts of tutorial stuff. So Sebastian teaches you how to fight. I think Trinculo teaches you how to talk. Alonzo doesn't teach you anything because he's a king,
Because
so he doesn't ever do anything.
Stefano says nothing much that the others can't teach you. Did you talk to them? And if I say yes, then it just says go through the door.
Yeah, so there's not a whole lot in here because
Stefano's redundant.
yeah,
Okay.
we mostly just put this area in here to be like, okay, we're gonna have a tutorial area, but because it's Neverwinter Nights, most of the tutorial is kind of,
Okay.
already there.
Okay.
So then the next thing would be to go through the door into the actual play.
All right. It's nighttime. Do we have it set for changing day and time, or is it
It
fixed?
does change, I believe. I think that's the default for Neverwinter.
Yeah. I just wanted to see what we've done on that. All right. Explain and lead the way.
Okay, well, we've got 3 paths you can go.
And remember, you go
Down
a lot
any of them.
faster than we can.
I know. So basically, we just kind of randomly picked the path and went down it. So I think we usually went beach first, which is this up to the left path.
Okay.
So.
See, there's a trigger for a door there. That's the next segment.
Yep, and a lot of these segments are kind of just here for I mean, there's not interactables, so this
Okay,
is just,
exploration of the island.
yeah.
Okay. We can always add over time if we want to fiddle with it.
Mm-hmm.
Have you teleported? I finally got back into the server.
What's
Yes,
that?
I'll bring you over here.
Oh. Who is that?
So,
Okay, welcome back. What do we got here? Anything notable here? So as we go through these sections, you guys want to call out whose sections these are? Who worked on them?
This would be mine.
Okay, you use your name.
Tim.
Tim. Okay, great. Anything memorable, notable about this? Oh, here we go. Crabs.
Yes.
During the development process or anything for you?
Yeah, there were no beetles. Or no crabs, so I used beetles.
Oh, okay. And you just called them crabs.
Yeah, there's also a little bag over here with the loot.
The loot. It's called loot bag. Oh, it's got a fair amount in there. We got armor, club, ironwood, another club. Okay, lots of clubs. All right. Any particular reason on the plethora of clubs?
I don't remember putting all that in there, actually.
So just for the heck of it, huh?
I think that was just randomly generated.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, because when I opened up the bag, I got like one potion of like bark skin.
Oh, interesting.
There's supposed to be a wax seal in there. I don't know if someone got that.
Yes, I picked up the waxing.
Okay, so that's an important item. All right. Where to next?
So I think the next trigger area is here.
So this is my area.
Who?
I think
Use
that's
your name.
Dario.
Dario. Okay, great.
So the next three will be mine.
What's that?
This one and the following two are my areas.
Okay, and anything notable that you experienced going through developing this?
What do you mean?
Did anything stand out for you? For any one of the regions? Any particular challenges? Any particular things you found particularly fun?
Not so much related to the areas, but the coding was challenging.
Okay. I like that little cut down ravine there. Kind of like that terrain that you did there. It's like it's a little interesting variety there. Okay, and anything on this beach area that we should know about?
No, not so much.
Okay, still just more exploration, okay. So I think before we release this for public consumption, we're going to want to add a little bit here and there to the others just for fun. Yeah, we met our scope goals, so we just want to kind of flesh it out a little bit for public release. All right. Now what? Where to? Oh, we're getting separated as a group here.
We're all in the same square at least.
Okay. Okay, anything notable on this level? This block?
Yes, this is where Trincula is.
Okay. Where?
It's further along down the beach.
Okay.
There he is up ahead.
Choose our next words wisely.
What?
What the?
What?
What's going on here?
Oh, wow.
See the sailor. Somebody misspelled "see" the sailor right here. That's
No,
intentional.
they're puns.
Okay, it seems like life on the ocean is made of something. Okay, I see. I get
Is this Trevor's?
These are my puns. This isn't my
These
map.
puns despite me asking him to stop. Unloaded carp. This is great. Okay. That's a little heavy. Wouldn't have hurt to maybe grab a few phrases from Shakespeare's dialogue. So, does he have anything useful to share besides just inundating you with puns?
He does. So he gives you some information about the shipwreck and that kind of stuff if you talk to him after.
Okay. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, and you can go back to the boat with Trincula.
Okay.
Although we never actually implemented a teleport, so he just kind of walks off. We did add a door in this level that will automatically take you back to the beach.
Okay. Do we want to go back there, or?
We'll have to go back to the main area to go to the other
So
two,
we're
'cause
as
that's
far as we could go at in this direction?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you're welcome to explore the level, but at a certain point, we are just going to have to
Okay.
use the door. Dario, you've run the opposite direction of the door, so you know. Looks like we still got one person, two people in the last area.
Okay.
Yes, I guess I took the wrong way.
Here, I'll jump over to you guys.
You can just right-click on them in your list of people and jump them to here. You as the GM can just teleport them wherever you want them.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much.
All right, where to now?
So we got two more paths we can run.
Forward?
Yeah.
Okay.
So once we're down this path, we can choose either go left or go forward.
Okay.
It doesn't particularly matter, so I'm gonna say, I guess left because it's a little closer.
Okay.
This is interesting having a whole mob of people running after me constantly.
We need to all have torches lit.
She's too fast.
Hang on, I think I can actually implement that real quick.
What's that?
I think I can put on a torch. Give me 1 second.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have a torch, unfortunately. Yeah, give me a torch. Give all of us torches. Yeah, you can do that. Just drop us some torch loot.
There we go.
Piff area. Was there a choice? Was that wagon cart chosen for a reason, or is it just a random? What are these little squiggles? Whoa.
They're tracks.
Oh, this is Zach's area.
Yeah, we don't have Zach here to elaborate, but they are
Zach, where
little.
are you? Bark, bark.
Essentially, the dog is supposed to be like trapped, and you have like a few different options for what you can do with it.
Oh, it's supposed to be trapped?
Yeah, that's what the tracks are supposed to be like. It leads to the dog. It's like tied up in like rope or like some other kind of trap. You can either kill it, leave it alone, or set it free.
I see. So did someone set it free?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I like that with the waterfall by the entryway. That's going to get the ruins. That's cool. I haven't seen that
And we have
skin.
Taliban here.
I like that. It reminds me of one of the Indiana Jones movies, I think.
Is Kingdom of the Crystal Skull the best one?
No! Alright, who we got here? Oh,
Shia LaBeouf's best movie.
Oh, yes. Is it sad that that was actually the first one I saw, and then I went back and saw the originals?
So, Caliban's human?
Yes.
You weren't able to come up with a satyr creature?
I don't think they have that in Everwinter. I also didn't know he was a satyr in
I thought-
Tempest.
Oh, maybe I'm misremembering. I thought isn't he the son of the witch that the wizard killed his mother.
Yes.
So I thought he was Fae. Maybe I'm misremembering. Maybe it's just the versions of Shakespeare I've seen, but I thought he was like a kind of demonic satyr type creature. Might want to double check that. Let me see here. Son of the witch Sycorax. One of the few Shakespearean figures to take on a life of its own outside Shakespeare's own work. Caliban is one of the hungry ideas. He's always looking for someone to word him into being. Caliban is necessary he. Caliban is half human, half monster. After his island becomes occupied by Prospero and his daughter Miranda, Caliban is forced into slavery. While he is referred to as a Calvaluna or moon calf, a freckled monster, he's the only human inhabitant of the island that is otherwise not honored with a human shape. In some traditions, he's depicted as a wild man or a deformed man, or a beast man, or sometimes a mix of fish and man, a dwarf, or even a tortoise. Banished from Algiers, Sycorax was left on the isle pregnant with Caliban, died before Prospero's arrival. Oh, okay. Caliban, despite his inhuman nature, clearly loved and worshipped his mother, referring to Setebos as his mother's god, and appealing to his powers, her powers against Prospero. Prospero explains his harsh treatment of Caliban by claiming that after initially befriending him, Caliban attempted to rape Miranda. Caliban confirms this gleefully, saying that if he had not been stopped, he would have peopled the island with a race of Calibans. Thou didst prevent me. I had peopled else this isle with Calibans. Prospero then entraps Caliban and torments him with harmful magic if Caliban does not obey his orders. Resentful of Prospero, Caliban takes Stefano, one of the shipwrecked servants, as a god and his new master. Caliban learns that Stefano is neither a god nor Prospero's equal in the conclusion of the play. However, and Caliban agrees to obey Prospero again. So, yeah, so some of them are really, like, just really primitive looking, and then others are creature-like, and some of the ones I've seen, he's kind of satyr-like. Whose square is this? Whose grid is this?
Zach.
What's that?
Zach.
Zach's?
Yeah, it's probably Zach's as well.
Okay, so, alright, well, I wish he was here. All right, but cool other than that. And he doesn't do anything other than just give some info, right?
Right.
Okay.
Oh, we also find them later.
Okay. Did any of you take any of the Shakespearean quotes and incorporate it into their dialogue?
I don't think we did.
No, nobody did?
Because it was hard for me to understand how I could like make multiple options using quotes, because you automatically have to rewrite stuff anyway.
Yeah. Okay. I understand the challenge of it.
For me, I didn't really use them because I thought it really wouldn't work too well for like a tutorial area, which was my area to write.
Yeah. Where'd you find that statue head? That was kind of cool. I haven't seen that.
It was in there somewhere.
He found it on the set from Indiana Jones with the crystal skull.
Just photogrammed the.
It's actually, if you open up my documentation, it'll tell you what props I put in each zone. So
cool.
Enlarged photo of the crystal skull from the aliens.
Okay, we got Stefano. The Adventurous Island, there seem to be many mysteries. Come back to the ship with me, Stefano.
The sequel to Aladdin is very sad.
Storm when the ship was beached. I left to see how everyone else had fared. I didn't run into anyone, but felt a presence calling me to this area. When I got here, there was no one to be found. See any points of interest? I didn't see much in this area. Well, now that you mention it, there may have been some strange shadows in the woods on the way over here. Did you see anyone else? Felt a presence? I'll say nothing after that. Alright. What were you saying there, Trevor?
Sorry, I was just making a small note to be like, wow, the sequel to Aladdin is very sad. Agrabah is just buried in sand.
So whose grid is this?
this is mine. So there was the option to return back to the ship with them, basically.
Yep. And is that what we want to do at this point? Or?
Yeah, so he's heading back over.
Okay.
Is there a door here, Valerie?
Yes, there should be. I don't know where it is. Oh wait, it's over here. I found it.
Flies across the sand.
Follow the fast, small person.
Dust trail.
What a weird entourage we have.
Well, this is like every D&D outfit ever, so.
Okay.
We have
Now
like
we're taking
what?
the right-hand branch.
Yep, so we're basically following the beginning of the path that we took already, and then we're going to continue going straight.
Okay.
We're going to the castle now?
No, we still have one more of 3 branches that we need to... The one that gave us the most issue with Ariel following us everywhere.
Oh, that fun one.
Why
Yeah,
was
but
that?
you can't spoil it. You can't say that there's a castle. That's spoilers.
What was the problem with Ariel following you everywhere?
The character would follow you through multiple, like, squares, through doors and stuff, and would continue to deliver their dialogue to everyone in the party, and, like, wouldn't stop
Listen
until...
to me! Listen to me!
Notice me, please. Uh-oh. Good apologies.
Uh-oh. I did. Sorry. I was cleaning my keyboard. Alright, now where? Okay, you approach the figures. You get closer. It seems as though you saw disappears in the darkness of the forest. You start to think you were mistaken. Woods rise up around you, and you feel as though there are distant whispers between 2 trees up ahead. You swear you can make out the figure of a person. Huh? You approach the figure. As you get closer, it seems as though what you saw disappears in the darkness of the forest. You start to think you are mistaken. I'm so sure that I saw someone or something. Okay. So that was what you needed to do. You couldn't do it as a trigger or something. You had to create kind of a translucent figure for people to click on for that to work.
I think Zach also made this.
Yeah, this is his as well.
Okay.
I think what Zach did is it's like every time he like finishes talking to you, she casts like invisibility on herself.
Right. But wouldn't, since you're not supposed to actually see her, just sense her, wouldn't just a trigger, is that not possible to trigger a dialogue? Like a description like that from a trigger? So that when you walked into the region, it would trigger that response instead of having to click on a figure? Would that have made more sense? Or is it not possible?
I have no clue.
Okay, that'd be something, if we could get a hold of Zach, I'd like us all to look into to see if that would be a better solution.
She still follows him, apparently.
Yeah. Ariel just
I banished her to limbo, but apparently that's not something that we fixed completely.
Okay, so make a note of that, Valerie. That's still something to fix.
Make a note of that. Banish Ariel to limbo.
And then the other one, as far as see if we can do a trigger for the description that you feel like you're being watched, rather than having to click on a figure.
Okay, and then add more to the run-through areas so that you're
so that there's actually a little something. Yeah, and then also each of you, if you wouldn't mind, even just sticking in. It doesn't have to be consistent, but even just a line here and there from The Tempest or any Shakespeare, even if it's just Shakespeare-like. We don't need the whole dialogue to be that way because then nobody will understand. But just a little bit, I think, would just be nice for the flavor. What do you guys think?
That would make sense.
Yeah.
I'll find a way I can try to work into the tutorial area. I'm sure I'm clever enough. I'm sure I can.
Don't get too carried away with it. Just it shouldn't take too long.
Yeah, I just like a little bit here and there wouldn't hurt.
Yeah, I think that'd just be a fun bit of flavor.
Okay, I built this one. This is Sebastian.
Okay. So did he head off to the boat?
Looks like somebody sent him. Yeah, somebody just sent him off to the boat. You can all go back to the boat with him, or one person can send him back on his own.
There's also over here. There's like a little camp area with there's a little item bag full of Sebastian's stuff. If you want to see what is in there.
Okay.
There is one unique item, and I think the rest of the loot is randomized.
I'm not finding it. Where's it hiding?
It's behind its little tent area. You just passed it.
There it is. Got an emerald, topaz, Sebastian's Rage.
That's the unique item.
Okay, katana, and minor acid splash trap. Sebastian's Rage. So should I grab Sebastian's Rage? Does that do something to the storyline?
No, it's just a little Easter egg. He comments, one of the dialogue paths, if you're kind to him, he says, you can take my stuff here when he goes back to the boat.
Okay. All right, anything else on this grid?
No, it's just him.
Yeah, the only other thing is the door back, which is over here by this big hole in the ground.
Yeah, I like the pits. Can you fall in the pits, or does it prevent you?
I think it keeps you, you can, I'm trying to click in the pit and you fall.
It's not like E.T. where you just fall into the pits. That's 50% of the gameplay.
Oh yes, the game that almost ruined video games.
I'm pretty sure it caused like the crash of the entire market.
Oh yeah.
All right, what next?
So now we had to build in the end scene as like an adjoining. Who's yelling? The end section. We built it in as a separate door to walk through, so we don't have like a sequence like, oh, you've gathered everyone, now you can go to the end. We just built it in as a separate thing over here. So when we release this to the public, we'll have to add in something that's like, that gets you to the store to go to.
Yeah, because it's like you just go, if you just turn right, boom, you're done, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Valerie?
Yeah.
I'm lost again.
Okay.
And Hawk, I built this area. Valley went and tweaked it by adding up all these paths, but I built the initial like ground area
Okay.
with all the design and whatnot.
Is it, how hard is it to move something like this to like the other end of the island or something? To like so if we're in the southwest region, like stick it in the southwest east corner so it's as far away as possible.
It's not hard to move.
Okay.
What might be worth though is in those areas where you like talk to each of the NPCs, if they give you like a key after talking to them, then you would have a door that has 3 keys to unlock it, and then even if they know the door is there, they can't enter it until they talk to everyone.
That's a good idea. That's a good solution.
Yeah.
I did this area, Hawk. This and the inside of the castle.
Who's I?
Luke.
Luke. Okay, cool. I like castle exterior. That's cool.
And then I did the final boss when we get to the final boss.
Okay. Anything else around here that I should see besides the castle?
There's some neat little decor and stuff. There's no like actual events until you get inside.
Yeah.
This is exactly how I could imagine cats in Ravenloft.
Okay, cool. Going in.
In case I didn't mention it, I did experience difficulties when making the tutorial area. Very strange bugs. Okay, so we had to test like what would happen if you attack the NPCs. If you attack anyone but Sebastian, they would all start saying, "Hello, I am Sebastian." And then if you attack Sebastian, you said, "Hello, my name is Tarinculo."
Okay, sounds like you had a bit of a nesting problem there or something.
I went back and I looked through my code. I don't know where they're pulling this name from. Like when I first started it, that's where, like when I first started it, I had like basic text to be like, "Hello, my name is blah blah blah."
Did you let anybody else take a look at it, see if they could see what's going on? Is it still doing that?
I don't think it is. I think I fixed it. If not, I'm gonna cry because I genuinely don't know where the nesting problem is. If it is one.
So that's part of the point of having a team is that when you get stuck, you guys get some other eyeballs to help each other figure it out. So is there anything in these cages, or are they just empty? These dungeons.
There's loot in some of them, I think.
Okay.
It's like there's a jail chest in the one.
Occasional loot. It's not just like
No clues or anything.
no.
Okay, little hints like books dropped with ancient lore. Or, okay.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I
all
also.
the. Sorry, no, you go. And I was just gonna say all the lore is through dialogue in this
Okay.
area. So there is lore. It's just not hidden in the castle.
Okay.
What I was going to say, I did a lot of the minor transitional phases, like when we were going from like the beach to like some of the other bigger areas. I did a lot of the minor transition stuffs.
Right. Gibson RD. Who's playing Gibson?
Me, Luke.
Okay, so you just picked something up. What was that?
Oh, that's where I put the test key
Oh.
for the chest. And if you open the chest, you find this journal and you bring it to King Alonzo, and it unlocks a different dialogue option.
Okay.
Valerie, can you teleport me to you? I accidentally stepped into the final boss. Thank you.
Just don't make him angry.
No, I didn't. I was exploring and it's just like,
What is he, Bruce Banner?
yeah, he just transforms into a giant. Oh no, it's Black Panther. Oh no, you're still alive.
So, do we want to try voicing over any of these dialogues?
What's going on? Took off my headset for a second.
Do these dialogues, do we want to try adding voiceovers to them?
Sure, I can.
To me, that's an accessibility thing.
I could definitely try to do voice acting.
Yeah, I mean, just for each of you, for your section, your NPCs. So it'd be nice if everybody had, even if it's just a made-up NPC that, you know, even if it's just a talking animal or something, that so if you were assigned 3 squares, at least one of your squares, you have an NPC that has some kind of dialogue, whether it's an animal, creature, whatever, and then play around a little bit with doing the voiceover feature to see how that works, because it's a little bit different scripting. What do you guys think of that?
I would love to do voice acting.
What about the rest of you?
I have the equipment for it.
Okay.
So,
Is there anybody who does not want to? Would rather not? So
I mean, if someone else wants to voice act my stuff, go for it.
Can we reuse some of those lines for the phase 2 and phase 3 if we do that?
Oh yeah, all of this we can reuse in phase 2 and 3, right?
Okay, I was just wanting to make sure it wasn't just phase 1.
Yeah, this is the skeleton that we're going to duplicate with our own tool set. So the more we flesh this out, we just replicate that into phase 2 and 3.
Are you okay, Darius?
The difference is, in our game, instead of it just being medieval, it will also be sci-fi, and it will also be modern day, right? Just by choosing the 3 different genres. So, and when it's text-based only, that's not a problem. When we get to the graphics level, we'll have to make it change skins based on the genre. Whoa, who's attacking? Zilla, is that you? We do a little PvP here? Is that what's going on?
No, it's not allowed. That's why I'm attacking her.
Just doing it for fun, huh? Oh, did GM just take you out?
More fun for you.
Did GM just take you out?
To be fair, he was trying to kill me.
Yes, that's what the GM's for. That'll teach you, or just put him to sleep.
See, the best experience I've learned is that you don't challenge the GM in any sort of capacity.
Yeah.
My players learned that the hard way.
Yeah, where do we go from here?
If you go, do you guys see where I'm at?
I have no idea.
Let me go. I'll go back to the main area. You gotta go down the hallway, and that's how you get to the end.
All right.
So, Hawk, I said I would like to do voice record. Is there software I need to download in order to record my voice?
The one that a lot of professionals use, and I use for my.
You guys are all going the wrong way.
Oh, is Audacity.
You followed the wrong person.
Oh, Audacity. It's open source. It's cross-platform. It's very powerful. It's a little techy, but it's very powerful. Yeah, and it'll work on every operating system.
Okay.
There's still away. Who left? There's still someone down.
Yeah, but Audacity is the software. It's perfectly.
I can't
good.
believe you had the audacity to recommend Audacity.
Exactly.
You know, eventually, speaking of DAWs, if we ever start doing music stuff for this, I probably would want to use Reaper. I don't know if it's open source, but that's really good for actual music stuff.
Well, we want to create original music. I have over 300 compositions.
So that saves us half the work.
Yeah, but I also enjoy.
I want.
I was like, do I just have to whip up my amplifier real quick and start
Yeah, if you
talking
guys
out?
just look up Synthetic Zen, you'll find my stuff floating around on Amazon and iTunes and Spotify. And if you listen, then I get tiny little royalties. Teeny tiny.
Oh, I want to sing a cappella.
So,
Our ERPG choir.
yeah. Like rockapella.
So, okay, so we have 2 people who are at the boss right now, and lots of people who are not. So I'm just gonna teleport you
Teleport
guys
us.
over there.
Put us where we belong.
Alright, and I made this guy. I made him the final boss.
This
Originally,
bedroom is
he
all
was-
off by itself. That's a long way to the bedroom.
Yeah, Prospero was originally very flimsy. Because of how many people we had, we could all just gang up on him and just defeat him very easily if we wanted to, like, just attack him. I've updated it so he has more spells, much better armor class, and he's a lot stronger.
So you are finally. Hey, whoa, you're clicking through this way too fast. Keep in mind, I have not seen any of this. Is it automatically going that quickly, or somebody tapping through it?
Oh no, I was speed reading. Sorry.
Ah! Yeah, I wanted to see you. The big.
Okay, here, I'll do it.
Does he start over?
So you'll
Let
finally
me do it,
come
and
to my
I'll voice Prospero here.
I guess I'll do Prospero because I made him.
All right.
So you have finally come to my humble abode. I'm glad you managed to get here. I thought anyone associated with the king is a wicked and evil person. You have proven me wrong.
So
Yes,
Trevor, did you watch the Shakespeare clips at the beginning?
I did. It's been a while. I'll probably need to
Okay.
refresh my memory.
Okay. Anyway, continue.
So yeah, I'm just going off what I think he just sounds like. Yes, I was acting out of revenge and evil. You have proven to be better than that, and for that, I will let you go. That's all I had.
Who just attacked you?
Well, it's so you can see the boss battle,
Sure.
because that was the end of it. but-
Okay. All right. Well, that's a good first draft area. We've got all the foundation laid out. We've got all the mechanics there. So, what power did you end up making him be?
I made him have like
Ow.
25 armor class, 400 health, and like a ton of like 5th and 6th level spells.
Okay.
But I guess that still wasn't enough. Gosh darn it.
Yeah, he should buff up himself first before he takes you on. 'Cause
To be fair, though, he did kill someone.
Okay, that's good.
He killed several of us with his first attack.
Yeah, it didn't even scratch me. Of course, I'm like 15th level.
I need to make him like 30th level apparently.
Yeah, I mean, he's Prospero. All right, cool. Anything else you want to show? What happens after that?
Kind of stuck
We're
here.
stuck here forever.
That'll teach us. What happens if we don't fight him?
We're stuck here with him.
Okay, well, it sounds like we need to do a little work on the ending. Because the way it's supposed to end, right, in the original story is, what's his name gets to marry his Prospero's daughter. They get to have the ships and they sail off happily ever after, right? So that needs to be one option. Another option is that you get teleported out of here and stranded on the island, forever. Maybe teleported back to the ship and go good luck with that. Don't ever bother me again. And then the third one is he just annihilates you. Or you kill him, or I guess if you do succeed in killing him, that Caliban and the others either rise up or turn around and become servants. One or the other. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I can definitely.
I was running that by the group. Valerie,
seems
what do you
good.
have as far as the options? Did we not define what happens at that ending there?
I think we did define endings, but coding the neutral one was an issue because we weren't sure we weren't keeping track of decisions. So it's like,
Okay.
how do you get a neutral ending
Okay.
when your options are fight him or don't?
Okay. So we still have to figure that part out.
Right.
Okay. So it sounds like we still have a few to-do items, and of course, what we figure out here will directly apply to phases 2 and 3. It's going to be the exact same story same map, all of that, just created with our own tool set. So the more refined we make the Neverwinter Nights one over time, the better the next phases will be as well when we get to those. Does that make sense for everybody?
Yep.
This is our little prototyping sandbox to experiment with and round it out, and then it also helps guide us as we make our own tool set. So cool. Anything else anybody wants to bring up before we wrap up? So let's try it again. I won't have time just because of the move is reaching a feverish peak here, but please do research further those different frameworks and options. Look at the JavaScript options. Look at the Godot. Let's definitely check on that accessibility as long as we can make games that are accessible. If Godot does prevent the ability to make accessible games, that's obviously a showstopper. But that's hard for me to imagine that would be the case. But we want to verify.
This may be for next time, but I put a link in the chat, and if you search Google on Godot on there, it's a research document. They did some experimental input involving in a lot of different ways. It's kind of an interesting thing.
Oh, good. Multimodal interface for an intelligent wheelchair. Excellent. And they did that with Godot?
Yeah, and they talk about it a decent amount in there.
Okay. Excellent. Because that is also down the road what I want to do is have physical controls that literally like roll the dice and move miniatures and stuff for people. Way, way down the road. So, but yeah, brain controlled robotics. That's cool. So we've got some fleshing out to do for the Neverwinter Nights when you guys want to, while you're waiting, because we're still kind of between scoping. So, we're still working on scoping. So if you want to continue some development, go back to each of your squares, coordinate with each other in the chat room. The idea is, of course, coordinate with Valerie, and of course, document. So each of you, whatever your block of squares were, try to flesh those out to have a little bit more life to them. Put a few critters in there. They don't have to be harmful. They can be friendly. They can be food. And then have out of every assignment that you have at least one square that has an NPC. If you don't already have an NPC, make one up that you think fits in some way. Maybe one of the sailors, even though they're not a main character, maybe some of the crew got scattered, and found here, or maybe another ship got caught in the storm, even though it was Prospero's doing, but just flesh it out a little bit more so there's a little bit more life to it, just to make it more interesting for the players. Add in what you can for the main characters, the ones that actually exist in the story. Try to put in at least one line from Shakespeare that makes sense. You're welcome to do more if you want, but don't get too carried away. Don't get bogged down on it. Trevor, if you could maybe lighten up the thread with the puns a little bit. It's a little too heavy on the puns. If you could maybe if there was a selection option there that says, would you like to be pun-ished or something like that, and then that's people choosing to deal with all the puns. That might be a good way to offer that for people who want it, but maybe not make that the default interface. Does that make sense?
Yes.
It could be a language selection at the beginning of the game. Punanese.
Do you want to be punished? That's funny. And what else did I mention? And implement the idea with the 3 keys or something like that. It would be nice if you could come up with a little riddle for each one, or at least a riddle at the beginning or something, like maybe a riddle at the door. So if they come to that door first, maybe a riddle at the door that tells them in some riddling Shakespearean way that they need 3 keys, but without saying you need 3 keys, do it in the form of a riddle. What do you think of that, Valerie?
Yeah, that sounds good. Because we would definitely need something posted on that door to be like, hey, you're going to get in here later, but not right now.
Exactly. So if you do it in flowery Shakespearean, look up different Shakespearean riddles. It wouldn't hurt. It's okay if somebody playing it already knows Shakespeare and that was kind of a giveaway. That doesn't matter to us. So if you find a riddle from Shakespeare that you already like, related to 3 keys or 3 eggs or 3 whatever, and you just tweak it, that might be your easiest way. If you want to make it up yourself, go for it. But if you want to kind of cheat on that, that's perfectly okay. But I think that would be a perfect spot for some Shakespearean flowery language.
Sorry, I left. My internet crashed on me. I'm back.
Okay. All right. Welcome back, Trevor. And what else did I mention? I think that's good. But yeah, so the more we flesh this out, the more it'll just be a copy paste into phases 2 and 3. So it won't be a waste of time if you want to work on your sectors now and add more details and just have fun with it, right? Bring it to life. And remember to support each other too. If you hear like Trevor or others kind of getting stuck, offer to look at each other's code and make sure, in fact, I would encourage you guys to do some peer review of each other's code to help each other have better code. At some point, we'll formalize that when we get going on the other. When we start doing phase 2, we're going to implement some better. We were kind of laissez-faire with No Winter Nights. With phase 2, we're going to want to do a little more peer review to make sure we're writing better code so that the tool set and stuff isn't super buggy and inconsistent. We'll have to figure out how we're going to allocate different pieces and then still try to keep our standards up as a group. So we'll figure that out as we get into it. Valerie, anything else you want to cover?
No, not today.
Okay, anybody else have anything else you want to bring up before we go? Let's go through the, Valerie, if you want to do the round table.
Okay, Trevor, do you have anything?
Nothing of importance. I will just work on my Neverwinter Nights part and see how I can fix it.
Okay, and also remember to research our different frameworks and stuff and tool sets.
I will also do that too.
Okay.
Okay, Luke?
I'll do the same thing as Trevor, and I'm going to start looking into some quotes for making the Tempest quotes more in the dialogue.
Cool. It's off to a great start, everybody. Really, it's awesome. Now we can just kind of just build on that great. We've got a good foundation. Now we just kind of fill in the blanks. Okay?
Dario?
No, nothing to add.
Okay.
Doug?
No, nothing here either.
Okay.
Tim?
Nope.
Okay, that's everybody.
All right. Well, thank you all so very much, and we'll catch you next week. Yeah, let's just keep having fun with this. I think I'll hold off on having the other RPG research people play it yet till we've got it fleshed out a little more. And so when we've got it fleshed out a little more, I'll let loose the hounds. Everybody have a great week. Thanks again. Catch you later.
No problem. Thank you. See ya.
Goodbye.
Hey, Hawk,
Yes.
are we off stream?
Give me a minute. And remember, RPG Research is a 501c3 nonprofit studying the effects of all role-playing game formats for their potential to help improve lives around the world. You can support us by going to rpgresearch.com/donate and selecting from our many donation options there. Or if you'd like to help as a volunteer, join as a developer, etc., swing by rpgresearch.com/volunteer. Wherever you may be well, happy gaming, and namarie. Give it a minute to catch up here.